Welcome. My name is Veena Rao. I'm an independent educational consultant with the Summit College Counseling, and today's presentation is titled, I'm a Junior. I'm ready to start building my college list. What should I be doing? So this presentation is going to give you the tips that you need to be able to develop your college list. So in terms of the first steps, I'll go over what students should be looking at before they start building their list. And when I review those factors, it'll help lead to another list of factors that students should consider before they actually start looking at colleges and universities. And this presentation will also cover some common myths that are associated with the list building as well as the admissions process. And I'm going to cover that at the end. In terms of the first step that students should engage in, it requires introspection, meaning that before students can engage in list building, they need to do some amount of self-reflection that helps them understand some of the motivations for going to college, for instance. So one of the first questions that students need to be able to tackle is, why do you want to go to college? Is there a true desire to learn? Is this a means to a career, meaning that you're going to college with the idea that when you're done in 4 years, you will be ready for a job market, and that's where you want to be. You want to be working. For some students, it's part of a process, meaning that the 4-year degree leads to further studies. It could be law school, medical school, it could be a master's program. So students need to first think about why they want to go to college. Is this, and then look to see what the outcomes are that they're hoping to get from a college education. So if it's strictly a job, at the end, then you need to know, that that's your pathway and that's why you're going to college. So then you're going to look to find schools that will help you achieve that goal. If it's a means to another degree, then it plays into a few different factors that students should consider. So the other points that you need to be reflecting on is, are you committed to being a student? Because as much as college is about finding yourself, being with community of people who are the same age as you, being independent, and enjoying the social life and all the other aspects of college life, it is an academic venture, right? You're going to be there for 4 years with the idea that you're going to be able to come out with a degree of some sort. So requires a lot of time commitment on your part to be able to achieve that final goal of getting a bachelor's degree. So you need to know that you're committed to being a student for 4 years. And then you also have to think about college as a financial investment, right? It takes money to go to college. And you need to understand that some of that, there might be families where the entire thing is they're able to afford to pay for it, but it's still money that's going out of your family's pocket to be able to pay for you to go to school. And for some students, it might be that they will take on loans in order to be able to go to college, which means that you have to understand what that looks like and what that means to you as part of like the list development. And we've already talked about the fact that it's a commitment of your time and effort, so it's an investment all around, and so you need to be ready and prepared to think of it that way. The other part of college list development and sort of like the self-reflection is, will you be ready to go to school once you've graduated? Meaning that, are you ready to start at a 4-year university 3 months after you're done with high school? If that's the case, then yes, then go ahead and start working towards that college list development. For some students, they may want a gap year, meaning that they want to take a break between high school and college to be able to travel, to work, maybe to earn some money, or just sort of take a break. And that's what's happened actually this past year. During the pandemic, a lot of students opted not to start school in the fall and took a gap year. And asked to be, take a year off between high school and college. But that happens routinely for a lot of students, that there are students almost every year who ask to gap. So if that's something that you want, then you need to know that, as part of the college list development process. For some students, they want a fresh academic start. So they may end up starting at a community college before transferring to a four-year university. For some students, starting at a community college makes financial sense because it's a lot cheaper to be able to go to 2 years of community college and then transfer to get your degree at a four-year institution. And universities around the country have committed to taking on students who transfer from community college to four-year universities. For us in California, the UCs and the Cal States are really committed to trying to take on students who come out of community college into their four-year programs, as are some privates here in California as well. So if you're ready at that point, you answer all of these questions and say, okay, I'm ready to start at a four-year university in the fall. Then what you do is start looking at a few more things that will help you evaluate the kind of college or university you want to apply to. So you will be looking at some academic factors. You'll be looking at the social scene that you want at the university. You will be looking at location. Where do you want to go to college? And then whether financial aid is an important component of this search process for you. So I'll go over each of these factors in detail. So in terms of academic needs, you may already know what you want to pursue at university, right? You may already know that this is the major you want to pursue, and this is the reason why, which is great. But before you decide where you want to go to university, you need to be able to ask yourself a few things that will help you figure out which universities to apply to. So what kind of academic pressures are you comfortable with? Do you want a really intense, academic environment, or do you want some place where you're able to, succeed, but still without all that academic pressure put upon you? Do you want to be the top dog at your institution, or are you okay with going with the flow and still doing really well, succeeding academically? So that will determine the kind of places you want to apply to. What about class sizes? Is that important to you? Because at some large institutions, the starter classes, the freshman classes, for instance, or your GE classes may have 200 to 500 kids in it. Are you okay being one of a large crowd like that? Or do you want something smaller? Because at larger institutions, what ends up happening is even as you go through your 4 years, you will still be in larger class sizes compared to a small university where it might be more intimate. For some students, interacting with a professor and and other students in rigorous debate is what they are looking for in the college experience. Well, that'll help narrow down where you might want to apply, because you might get that at a smaller institution versus a really large public or private university. Um, is hands-on learning an important component of how you learn or what you want to be doing? So there are institutions where co-ops and internships are built into your four-year degree program. So I came out of a law school, Northeastern in Boston, where I had 4 internships that were built into my 3 years of law school. At most other law schools, people only went out and did internships during the summer. Whereas at my institution, we had 4 of them built into our 3-year law school degree. And then I had 3 other clinics that I was a part of while I was there. Well, that happens at the undergraduate level as well at institutions like Northeastern, Drexel. And so you need to consider if that's an important factor, then that might drive what institutions you apply to. And it doesn't have to be that it's built into the school component, but it could be that you're in a location where you have access to internships, which means that you can intern throughout your school year. Say, for instance, you're interested in going into politics and studying political science, for instance, you might want to be near a state capital or DC, because then you've got access to congressional offices in those locations, right? So you need to understand if that's a big part of what you want out of your college experience. Then the next part of it is also looking at what type of environment are you looking for when you go to college? What is the kind of place you need to be in order to feel comfortable and feel at home, right? Are you used to a small group of friends, or do you have a large group of friends now in high school? Well, that might dictate like what, campus life looks like as well for you. Do you need to be able to see familiar faces through your school day now? And is that something that you would want when you go to university? Um, if you need to see familiar faces all, throughout your day, then maybe a smaller mid-sized institution might be the right fit for you. What are the what are the traits you're looking for in your fellow classmates? Meaning that, do you want an institution that might be politically leaning in one direction, or do you want it to be people who enjoy, STEM only courses? Do you want institutions where you're going to be interacting with lots of people who come from different countries? Well, what does that look like? You need to figure that out. Um, for some students, being part of like a school with a big football team or a big basketball team is part of what they're looking for, because they're looking for that big school spirit. Well, then that might drive the institutions that you will add to your list. Greek life. For some students, it's a really important component, and at some universities, it is a big component of of the social life, meaning that a lot of students rush, and so that'll dictate what your friend circle looks like, in terms of going to an institution where Greek life is big. Then you might have different circles of friends. What about diversity? Do you need to see an institution where there are lots of women on campus, lots of people of color? Do you need to see people who share your values and your ethnic and racial background? Or if you're a student who's LGBTQ, do you want to look for an institution that supports people who are of the LGBTQ community? Do you want something that is, do you want to be part of a religious institution? Well, then that'll drive your search as well. For some students, they're okay with going to single sex institutions. If that's the case, then your list narrows down considerably. Or if you don't want that, then you've already got a few schools that are eliminated, right? Extracurricular activities are a big part of high school life, and you would probably want that in your college lives as well. So you're going to look to see if that's a big part of you, whether that's what you're looking for in the college atmosphere as well. For some students, it's sports, or it might be music, theater, whatever. They may not want to pursue that as a major, but if you have access to club sports, you still can continue to play. But you don't have to be committed to being on the university sports team. The same thing with music and theater. You can continue to audition and participate without actually having to pursue the major at some schools. So that's what's going to, you need to look to see if any of these factors are important and are a priority for you in terms of what you're looking for in an institution. The next thing that students should look at is the location. What type of environment do you need to be in? Where do you need to be in order to feel comfortable? You have to consider, are you okay with going away from home? If so, how far? Do you need to be within a car ride away, or are you okay with flight times, right? And if it's flight times, are you looking at direct flights or multiple flights? So when I'm building a list, I always tell students to be able to look to see if the institution that are looking at requires more than one flight to get there, because that means it's going to take time, and it's not going to be easy to come back and forth home, for instance, for breaks and stuff, because you have to factor in travel time, right? What about the weather? There might be students who want to be, at a beach. They may be okay with winter. And we're from Southern California. So in Southern California, you may want weather where you can wear shorts and flip-flops all year long. But if you're going to the East Coast, you have to be prepared for the wet weather, snowy weather, for instance. Or, for instance, frizz, because we're used to dry California weather, not the frizz. But in terms of in other factors to look at, do you want to be in an urban environment, right? What do you want that campus to look like? You could go to a school, say for instance, USC is in an urban environment, but they've built themselves a proper campus. So you get the campus feel in an urban environment. But if you go to NYU, NYU is in the heart of New York City, and it's a few square blocks of buildings that constitute NYU. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with going to a rural location, something far away from big cities, but the town itself supports the college that's on campus, that's there? Do you need that true campus feeling in order to feel comfortable? Well, answering some of those questions help you understand what you're looking for in terms of location and the atmosphere that the college is in. The next big component that students should definitely talk about with their families is, what does the financial needs of the family look like, right? What is the cost of college going to be for your family, and what does that mean? What kind of budget are you able to set aside to be able to pay for college as a family? This discussion should happen before you develop your list, because you can then create a list that includes colleges that will help meet your family's financial needs. So the idea behind all of these questions is to draw out information and help you prioritize the factors that you're looking from an ideal university, meaning that this will be the university where you will be able to thrive for the next 4 years of your life, because it has met or is going to meet most, if not all, of your needs. And so, how do you do the research for colleges? Well, you look to see, for instance, what does your school offer? You can speak to your guidance counselor. You can look at websites that platforms your school already has in place, like Naviance, Score, Maya Learning, to see if you can use those as tools to research colleges and universities. This is a service that I provide to my students as part of their comprehensive package, as well as a standalone package where I will evaluate a student's needs and then determine, what they are looking for in a college campus, and then help them develop a college list. But, there are tools that you can use online as well to be able to search for colleges and universities based on location, size, majors, the social scene, whatever list you've prioritized in terms of factors you're looking for, you can use that to be able to search for your list of colleges. So in terms of what that list should contain, in the beginning, it should be a little bit broader. You should be able to look to about 20 institutions, maybe even 25, to go and gauge different programs that fall within the criteria of what you're looking for, so that you can then do in-depth research to figure out what different colleges and universities apply, so you can see which program might be the better fit for you. So one of the things that I would definitely recommend is, if there's an in-person opportunity to visit the college, then please go ahead and visit it, and then listen to what they have to offer, and then try and figure out if it's the school that'll end up on your final list. But you can scour their websites. All the colleges and universities now are offering you virtual visits. So you have the ability to visit a college and get information from them through a virtual tour of the institution. But there are other places where you can also get information about colleges and universities. Beyond just the college website, you have the ability to get information from them, right? So when you go and visit a college website, they'll automatically ask you, hey, do you want us to send you emails about us? Do you want more information about our programs? Well, sign up for it. That might help you get information that's relevant to you, that you can then read through to be able to decide whether or not this school remains on your list. There are college fairs being offered virtually, that you can attend right now. And if it was non-pandemic times, you would have in-person college fairs that are being offered around the country that you can go and visit and speak to admission representatives. You can also attend college presentations done by the reps who might very well be reading your college applications about their schools. And it's a great opportunity for you to be able to ask them questions about their programs to determine, whether or not they're the right fit for you. You can also email the college admissions officers to ask them relevant questions. You can call the admissions office to get that information as well. There are videos, for instance, on YouTube. There's another one, a website called campusreal.org, where you can go and view videos put up by students about the universities that they attend. And you can also reach out to current students who are there. You can do that through the university's website and ask the admissions office, hey, can you connect me with someone? Or you can reach out to students from your school who are already at the institution you're interested in applying to. But ultimately, the goal is to narrow this big list you've created and whittle it down to about 10 universities, maybe 12. The reason being, you don't want to go bigger than that because you have to take time to complete the application, write all the essays that the universities require to explain why they're the right fit for you, right? Why you belong on their campus. That takes time and effort, which is the reason why you want to limit your list to about 10 schools, so that you know that you can handle the work that comes with that application. So when you're looking at the list, it should contain about 1 to 3, maybe reach schools. What are reach schools? These are schools that are highly competitive, that a school where when you compare your stats, your GPA, your test scores, if you have them, to the universities, you are somewhere within their range, but there's no guarantee that they'll admit students because their admission rates might be so low. It might be that, you cannot predict with certainty that you'll be able to get in, which is why they're considered reach schools. You should have at least 4 to 5 match schools. These are the places where when you compare your GPA and your test scores and the rigor of your curriculum to what their students, the students that they've admitted, you are within that range of the admission that the university has already put out, the stats, right? When you compare your stats to theirs of the students that they've admitted, you're within that range where you should have a good shot of getting in. And then you should have at least 2 to 3 safety schools. The safety schools are schools where your stats are above what they normally admit. They're still offering you the programs that you want because you've done that introspection. You've come up with these schools because they offer you the programs and the kind of atmosphere and the scene that you're looking for. But they are going to be safety schools that you have a really good shot of getting into. So you're looking at 1 to 3 reach schools, 4 to 5 match schools, and then 2 to 3 safety schools, so that you've built a list that is well-rounded, that you have a good shot of getting into and being happy at any of the places that you would then get into. But by the time you've arrived at that list, you've gone through all of these factors, academics, right? Will you be able to pursue your major? You don't have to declare a major when you go in. You can go in undecided, but you know that this institution will support you in your journey to finding your major ultimately, right? The social scene. You've already decided that the colleges on your list are a good social fit for you as well. These are places where you will feel at home if you get in and decide to go there. Location, these are schools that have the right location, the right like I guess urban or rural vibe, whatever it is you're looking for. They offer you the location that you're comfortable with. And then when you've looked at financial aid, you've asked the university about your financial needs and what they will do to meet them, right? So you're basing it on the fact that you've applied to universities where your financial needs will be met. What are some myths about the college admissions process? One of the things that students think is that you have to attend a highly selective school or an Ivy League to be successful. Well, that's just not true. If you've read Frank Bruni's book, one of the things that he points out is some of the most successful people in the United States did not go to the Ivy Leagues and did not go to highly selective institutions. It's what you do when you get there that makes a difference. And so do not discount state institutions, do not discount schools based on the fact that they're Ivy League or not. You can be successful as long as you make the effort to do, put your best foot forward in essence. If I apply to like 10 or more schools that are highly selective, I have a better chance of getting in. Well, no, because if the admission rate at any of these schools is in the 5 to 10% range, applying to 10 schools will not increase your odds of getting it at 100%, right? You can't stack up your odds. The odds of getting into each institution is still the same. And one of the statistics I will share with you is that, for instance, in 2019, Harvard had 26,000 domestic applicants, meaning kids in the US applying to the school. Of that 26,000 students, 8,200 had perfect GPAs, meaning they had 4.0s, right? 3,500 had a perfect SAT score in math. About 2,700 had a perfect SAT score in the verbal test component of the test. But Harvard only had 1,700 seats to offer. So the fact that we had 3,500 kids with perfect GPAs didn't mean that they were a shoo-in to Harvard, because Harvard still had only 1,700 spots to offer. So students really do need to think about reach schools and limit the number that they apply to, because applying to more schools doesn't mean you get in. If you're applying to all the Ivy Leagues at the same time, there's something in there that you haven't done a deep dive into, because they have different offerings. They have different locations. They have different social scenes. So if you're applying to all 7, something went wrong in the research that you were doing, that you might have based your list on factors that may not have been thoroughly considered. Should you select all your schools based on the US News World Report rankings? The answer is no. It might be an interesting place to start, but what the US News and World Report rankings are based on are factors that might be completely irrelevant to your quest for schools that are the right fit for you. Because some of the factors that they consider includes, like, what is the university's standing amongst its peers? So they're asking other institutions to rate, University A. They're looking for what kind of resources do faculty members have? How much do they get paid to be at the institution? They look at selectivity, like meaning they're looking at ACT and SAT scores to figure out what the university's like ranking is. Alumni giving, that's a component of the US News and World Report. Well, is that really relevant to figuring out whether this is the right fit school for you? No, it might not be. So that it might be good to read through the list to see what universities are out there. But in the US alone, we have over 3,500 institutions. So there are plenty of choices. You need to make sure that whatever universities you apply to offer you the things that you're looking for out of a college education, right? Another myth is all universities will meet my financial needs. And that's really not true. This is part of the research that you're going to have to do when you develop your college list, is to figure out how much of your need they do meet. So as part of list development, you need to know that there might be universities that you apply to where your need might be met completely. Financial needs a financial aid package could also include loans. So you need to be aware of the fact that when they're saying we'll meet your need, the need could come in the form of loans. So you need to be aware of that. The other thing that people constantly confuse is I can only get a cheaper education at a public institution. Sometimes that may not be true, that if you are a student who's high achieving and has done really well, there might be schools where you will get enough merit aid in combination with need-based aid that it might be just as competitive as applying to a public university. So, don't just assume that you will not get the aid that you need, or it'll be cheaper for you to attend a public university versus a private university. That was the end of my presentation. For people who would like to reach out to me, I have a handout that goes with it, so feel free to email me at the link below to be able to access the handout that goes with this presentation. If you would like to a free consultation with me, feel free to sign up on my website using the Contact Me page to be able to set up a consultation with me. If you like this video and would like to see more, please do give it a big thumbs up. And I thank you very much for joining me for my presentation today. All the best to you as you develop your college list.